Let's talk about Microsoft Contacts for a second, because across the world there are millions, possibly hundreds of millions of businesses that rely on Microsoft 365 to run their business. And Contactzilla, our contact management product, one of the most requested features that we get is the ability to push out contacts to Microsoft so that everybody's got them available on their phones and their desktop and in the web. And that seems like a wholly reasonable request. So you would think that this was really quite a straightforward issue to deal with. Well, let's just have a look at Microsoft's current product suite. 365 has obviously got a web interface. It's also got a desktop application, and you expect those to be in sync. Now, the nature of Microsoft's systems is that they're so large that there's bound to be some delays in synchronization and stuff, and to some extent that's to be expected. But let's just talk about the actual contact organization for a second, because how do you actually go about organizing your contacts as a business that relies on Microsoft 365? Well, let's start at the very top. So the directory, you come into the web interface and you've got these directories within the organization, all contacts. So here's the first thing. You would really expect all contacts to be exactly what it states, all contacts, but it's not. These are shared contacts across the organization. So if I actually pick my contacts, that's not the same as all contacts. So the things that appear in the directory are not necessarily what you would expect. They're groups of contacts for mailing list purposes, or this all contacts. Now, all contacts itself, this is a fun one, but all contacts is actually administered through the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. I can't find any way that you can do this outside of here, but you add a contact here, and then this contact information actually becomes globally available. And it's not the same interface for adding a contact as it is in Outlook. And of course, you need administrative privileges to actually push these out here. Now, from our product perspective, it would be really nice if we could just update contacts into here. It would keep everything isolated from everyone's personal contacts. Super easy, one API, we push the contacts out. That would be great. Unfortunately, the Microsoft Graph, and Graph is essentially the term for all of Microsoft's APIs for 365 relating to Outlook and most of their other products. It just simply doesn't have a method to actually push contacts out to this shared address book. So that's the first problem we face. So moving on from that and the fact that we can't actually push contacts out to this shared address book, that really leaves us only with one option, which is to push contacts out to the personal contacts. So let's just have a look at this for a second. We have folders here. So what is a folder? Well, a folder is an object that can be administered via the API. And if I look at the Graph Explorer and I pull back the contact folders, we can see CZ subfolder, and these are just demonstration folders and my Contactzilla contacts. And you can see that that's actually pulled through to here and here. Now, if I go into Outlook Desktop, you will see that these folders have actually been pulled under categories. So there is already there's a drift in functionality between them. From a semantic naming point of view, they're folders here and they're categories here. So what I notice is there's this new contacts, and you can enable this. And I was like, okay, so this brings this consistently in line with Microsoft Outlook, because this is the current new version of the desktop client on Mac. and I'm sure this differs again slightly on PC. But if we actually open this up, we can see there is a new improved contacts for Outlook, and they're touting that they've delivered what's been asked for. Contact categories, new contact editor, etc. And somewhere in here, organizing contacts using categories. So it seems like they're now suggesting that you don't use these folders that appear as categories, even though the Graph Explorer actually calls them, it actually calls them contact folders. So that they're suggesting that those are no longer used. And then known limitations. Folders on Outlook desktop will show as categories in Outlook on the web. So they're basically stating here clearly that the two products are not the same, which is kind of mind-bending in its own right. That you could have a drift in functionality between essentially the same product but on web and on desktop, and also of course you have mobile as well, where it's potentially different. So anyway, let's turn this on and let's have a look, because presumably this is going to fix all of our issues. Okay, so we turn this on. So the first thing to note is that we now have all of these categories, and there's a whole bunch of test data actually here that we've played around with previously. So I'm just going to collapse that for a second and just look at going back to our contact folders. So we can actually no longer see those contact folders. They've been completely removed from here. They're not appearing in this list, even though on the desktop client they actually do appear in the list here. So these are the subfolders here. So that's a further difference, these categories here have been added via the API at the point that we actually added the contact. Now, if we actually look at the categories that are on the desktop client, it's not actually pulled those ones through. So those categories that we've added appear to have been orphaned, and there's absolutely no way to delete them. So we can't actually remove these categories now from the system. They're just completely orphaned off, and there is no mechanism under the API to actually remove them. If I go into the Graph Explorer and pull back master categories, so that's the categories within Outlook itself, and run that, you will see, I can run that now, but you will see that it's pulled back some of these categories here. The default categories being red category, orange category. I have no idea why they would be default categories. It seems absolutely crazy that you would have default categories that were just colors like that. Entertainingly as well is that the colors are just preset colors. You can't actually set a color reference on them. So if I come into categories, not even sure why I can't enable that at the moment, but so I can categorize a contact. Okay, manage categories. So the actual colors of the categories, I can add a category here, and the colors are very, very bland and very boring. There's no way to add another color. These categories here in the desktop client, you can see don't actually mimic what we have here, despite the fact that this is the same. Now I suspect if I add another category here and we call this my video test, I'll just give this one of the preset colors and create, I suspect, there we go, Project Dilemmas now appearing in the list, despite the fact that I had actually prior to this video clicked on sync. So there's some data consistency errors in terms of how things actually visibly turn up as well. If we do this now, that new category will hopefully be there. Yeah, my video test. So that does at least pull that through. If I come into the Graph Explorer, we'll just try and let's just try and actually list the contacts. So let's just search for the request for finding the contacts. So let's just pull back the contacts. You will see that the categories is actually, it's empty here, but it is actually just an array. So what I'll do is I'll just categorize a contact here. These are all test contacts, so just ignore all the actual information. It's all been made up and arbitrary. So let's just maybe we'll just take the first contact, and then hopefully that'll appear up first in the list. So let's just categorize this, and we'll add that to project dilemma, and that's updated there. I'm going to click sync just to make sure it does actually update. And actually it seems like it's not ordered alphabetically there. So let's just find project dilemma in this list. Is it actually even there? Yes. Okay, so we do actually, so that has actually synchronized through. Okay. Not sure, unfortunately, we can find the ID of this contact, so we might have to actually just check the Explorer just to see if we can actually find a contact based on the ID. Contacts get okay. Maybe we can't actually find that contact easily. Well, I tell you what, let's just hang on a minute. Let's just run this again, and we will find this particular let's find this particular contact and just see if we can categorize them. So let's find a contact. This, of course, should be very straightforward. Here we go. There we go, Verley Walter. And let's just edit this, and we will add them to a category. So this is another amusing thing. It only shows me some of the categories. I have to, if I want to see all of them, I have to click all categories, but hopefully I can just find project dilemma here. That does actually work. Save this. We've had a very long delays with the actual categories, so a contact that's had multiple categories would just literally show one category here for ages, and I'll try this now actually just to add them to another category as well, just to check that this is updating, and of course yeah, it has actually updated there, but we've updated it elsewhere and it's taken forever to actually show up. So now if we go back to the Graph Explorer and we run this, you can see that the categories are project dilemma and box, and there's no reference to a master category there. If you notice, if I go to the hang on, where is it? I've lost the folder, so let's just find master. Is it going to find it? Maybe API Explorer. Okay, we should be me, Outlook, master categories. So let's just run this again. And what you'll notice is that my project dilemma is actually a master category, but box is not. So that's obviously slightly peculiar. But because box appears in this list, let's just try and create a new master category. So let me just see. Create Outlook category. I'll just, okay, so this is, we want to basically just grab this this request body, and we're just going to literally create a sorry, that's the wrong one, master category. We're just going to post, and we're going to create one, and we're going to call it box. We're going to create exactly the same thing, because somewhere in the system in Microsoft servers there is this, and actually if you click these, entertainingly, there's just a sort of semantic difference. They're called tags here, and they're called categories there. So we've got categories, master categories, tags, and then of course the directory as well. So semantically it's very confusing. But let's just create one called lowercase box. Now I haven't done this previously, so I don't know what's going to happen, but I should imagine it possibly is going to allow me to create this. So let's see what happens. Okay, so it has actually created that master category. Now that should be good. Now in theory, I should then presumably be able to delete the master category. You would expect it to then remove that category from all of the contacts, or at the very least expect it to actually warn me that there's contacts that have got that category and need it. So, and you can see here I can actually delete a master category. So let's just pull back those master categories and see, are they appearing? Yes, box is there. And if I go into Outlook, you can see actually that's great, that's already synced, and the contact is there. So we assigned that to the previous box category that was there, and it has actually assigned it. Now what I would hope is we can actually delete that, which would allow us to get rid of this label here, right? So if we just click into this, I don't know the best way to do this, whether I should decategorize this contact first or just delete the category, but we'll try just deleting the category. So if we go back to our Graph Explorer and take the ID of the category here, this UUID, and then we will run a delete request against it, and we just need to take that ID. We will run this. It's give me a 204, which should indicate that it's been deleted, and I'll run it again. We should get a different 404. It can't find it, so the API is suggesting it has indeed been deleted. And if we select running master categories, that's great. That master category has vanished. What happens if we now sync this? You would expect box to vanish, right? Well, it hasn't. Box is still there, and it seems like, yeah, you can see here, it's actually lost the color. So there's definitely something that's been orphaned off there. This box label is no longer considered a master category. There's no distinction in this UI as to what that is. But let's go and have a look at the web interface, just see what's happened. And here you go. So anyway, that's quite a long-winded, convoluted look at Outlook contacts and how they're actually managed. It seems like master categories is the correct way to manage labels, but of course there is this situation where you can end up with these categories that are detached away from master categories and then can no longer be deleted, it seems. So obviously this causes a lot of challenges for when we're trying to produce a reliable synchronization system. All I can say is that we will do our best to create a system that synchronizes the labels correctly, but I think that Outlook Contacts is very much in a state of flux at the moment with respect to categories, and even just the terminology itself is very confusing. Just the names of the directories very, very confusing, I think, to most people. And I think it's a real shame that there isn't a API for all contacts, because that would mean that we could easily write to this all contacts. The other thing about all contacts as well, from the categories point of view, is that what we've primarily been looking at in this video is your personal contacts. So those master categories are actually master categories related to the individual user. So there's no concept of globally available categories. So I need to do a bit more playing, or we need to do a bit more playing with the actual global contact list with respect to categories. But it does seem that it's not even possible to categorize these categories, these contacts, just looking at this here. So I think Microsoft really needs some sort of global categorization system so that the organization can have categories and then assign them to these global contacts. And then the organization also needs to be able to have an API to actually update these contacts. Until it's got that, I think that both our product and other products in the marketplace that claim to sync to Office 365 are going to be consistently a bit problematic, potentially even confusing. So yeah, I think given that there's probably 1 billion contacts globally managed inside Microsoft Outlook, it's a pretty poor state of affairs, and hopefully things will become more consistent in time. I think it's overcomplicated. It's clear that this is just big organization problems trying to come up with a solution that works, that maybe developed between disjointed teams, and one team doesn't necessarily know what the other team's doing, because like I say, I've only looked at the web and desktop here. It's actually furtherly different on the mobile app as well. So anyway, hopefully that's useful to someone. We're going to probably put a blog post together that explains some of this as well. And yeah, good luck using Microsoft 365.